Alright, so we're going to be making a casual kitchen table deck from the two Planeswalker decks that we opened, the Vivien and the Liliana. And we're going to use that deck builder's toolkit and just make a black-green Golgari kind of deck. I mean, I don't think there's anything like kind of like super powerful, but you know, something for casual kitchen top, you know, against the other Planeswalker decks, it's definitely going to be viable. So, of course, here's our two Planeswalkers. I got to get more sleeves, but just put those aside for right now. So we're going to start with the lands. We've got a lot of forests. So yeah, this is part of the Vivien deck. Where did I put... Oh, they're right here. So we're definitely going to be playing with the Pelakka Wurms, Aggressive Mammoth, and the Pelakka Wolves. These are just really high-powered cards. You know, just this right here you get to tutor, and these guys are just beasts, right? You know, just with the stats alone. But as far as the Worm, I think the Worm is the better one of these. Maybe it isn't, because it is slower, but I just feel like that gain 7 life is kind of, it's game changing, you know, it's just like boom. If you're against like a burn deck or something, it's just, you know, just like two lightning bolts and a little bit extra, you know, it's just restored right there, just one card. And it's built into a creature, which is really nice. And when it does die, you get that extra bonus. So anytime you can get a card that has value in it like that, that's just, you know, it's really good. But it is kind of balanced because it requires a turn 7. You know, you gotta have 7 mana, so it's just, I don't know. Very, very strong, but obviously you want to ramp up into it, right? But we took out the Llanowar Elves and we put them in our Challenger deck, so if you do get the Deck Builder's Toolkit, make sure you keep the Llanowar Elves. As a matter of fact, if you get the Welcome deck from, I don't know, maybe like, I think they give them out at conventions, or they give them out at the open houses, and I think there's other ways you can get them. If you go into a store, they can teach you how to play Magic. I don't know, but you can get free welcome decks, and you want to get, whoops, you want to keep the 2 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, and then 2 from the welcome deck, and include those, because the Llanowar Elves are just so nice to ramp up into big things like this. And because of that, we're going to go straight into the, oh, this is the black deck. We're going to go straight into the Druid of the Cowls. And, yep. So, Llanowar Elves is a 1/1, but you can play it on turn 1. And this is a good follow-up. Again, we don't have a full playset. The Vivien deck only includes 2 copies of Druid of the Cowl. So, you know, again, we're just going to plop those in there. It's just for the kitchen table, so we're not going to be really trying to pull off, like, you know, these are obviously weaker and cheaper than other cards. I mean, we don't have access to those high-powered cards, so. But Elvish Rejuvenator, I believe there's another one in the Deck Builder's Toolkit, so we're going to find that other one and try and make it work, because if we can solidify the lands for the Pelakka Wurm, it's just going to be game changing. We can really just stomp them out and have a kind of a tide turning battle from that point on. So here's our lands. We'll take those out. Always good to have a lot of lands. I like that about the Deck Builder's Toolkit. Also, I had a bunch of lands from the Star City Games Gold Collection lot. Got about 80 or 90 lands, or I forget. That was really nice, but you know, you can always use more lands as you're just playing, you know, experimental kitchen table brews, and I think that's the perfect thing about these kind of products. It's just, you know, focusing on the game and deck building and just chilling out and being casual versus kind of the challenger deck, very intense, like focused, you know, strategy, learning of the meta and all, you know, countering and everything, and just thinking about all these different things. You know, the Deck Builder's Toolkit with the Planeswalker decks are just so nice just to chill out and just to play casually. So, hold on, give me a second. Sorry about that. I'm gonna drink some water. Alright, so the Bristling Boars, I think, are pretty, you know, they're not bad, but the 3 toughness does matter. And when you're a beginner and you're looking at cards, as far as value, like for 4 mana, I think we want to get at least a minimum of 4 toughness if we can. The effect on this, though, I guess that's the reason why it only has 3 toughness, is that it can't be blocked by, it can only be blocked by 1 creature. Okay? It can't be blocked by multiple creatures. So if they have a bunch of like 1/1 tokens, they can't use 3 of them to block into this, which is, you know, a very common strategy if you know, if you're trying to use up your tokens to eat up an enemy creature, an attacking creature. But as far as the Bristling Boars, it's like, you know, you're forced into only 1-on-1 combat, so that's like a kind of a limitation that they have to deal with. And I don't know, it's just the fact that it has 3 toughness is just, that's kind of the deal breaker for me, because it just gets lightning striked. But you know, for the starter deck, it is, you know, it's viable. It's kind of aggressive, but for me, we're going to be focusing on the giant, chunky, beefy creatures, that the 8/8 Aggressive Mammoth, these colossal Dreadmaws. We're going to throw these guys in there, and we're going to back that strategy up with graveyard shenanigans. Okay, so if they use a lightning strike on an early game creature, well, we got some, you know, like Gravedigger or something. You know, that's kind of the point of, well, in my mind, kind of what this deck is going to be all about. We're going to utilize the strength of green as far as creature toughness and power, and then if those creatures get removed, again, remember, it's the kitchen table meta. If they do happen to get removed, you can recur it through the graveyard with the black cards, and of course we have access to removal. But then again, I did take out the murders, so we're not going to have the murders in this deck, so we're going to be using chunky, slower removal spells, but that's okay, because it's still pretty effective. Again, in the kitchen table meta, it's way slower. It's not as fast-paced on 1, 2, 3, 4, the first part of the early game. It's much more, you know, longer-paced, more casual, so... but it's still, if you want to beat your friends, I mean, come on, let's go. Let's try and beat them. Alright, so Colossal Majesty, again, beefy, chunky creatures. We don't have a lot of ramp. This guy is pretty good. Okay, so Declare Dominance is, again, this is going to be in the sideboard. Well, you know what, this is going to be a first consideration pile. Again, you got to filter through, kind of see what you like, what you don't like, but, you know, we'll throw that one into the consideration pile. It's just, you know, good against a board like Stall. You have a big chunky creature, and then boom, you play this, and you get that +3/+3, and they all have to block into that big chunky creature. For example, a Colossal Dreadmaw, it becomes a 9/9, and then they have to block into it if their creatures are able to. So you can kill a bunch of their creatures right then and there, but it does cost 5 mana. So I'd rather be playing a creature as well, but still, it's a decent spell. But okay, we already talked about the Bristling Boars. I'm actually just gonna put them in the, you know, meh. I'm not really too excited about this pile, but the stuff on the right, that's our go-to consideration. Again, this is all from the Vivien Planeswalker deck from Core Set 19. Ghost Spark Twins, I think it does. We can put that in there. Again, we'd rather play with the Pelakka Wurm, and that 7 mana is pretty slow. And I think there's a Meteor Golem. 2, ooh, interesting. Which, you know, in the kitchen table meta, I think we can pull off the Meteor Golems if we get some more Druid of the Cowls, but, you know, with only 2, maybe not, because you really need the ramp to support 7 mana creatures. Oakenform, this is, I don't know. We gotta look at our early game. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of early game. We'll put in the consideration pile because, again, kitchen table meta, they might not be ready for it. 2 plummets, put them in the tech, we can have a sideboard. Rabid Bias, that's playable. Thorn-eyed Wolves. I'm not excited about this, but I like it more than the Bristling Boar, because it is a 5 mana and it's the extra 2 toughness is troublesome. 2 Titanic Growths, we're going to play with those because it's a combat trick, or put them in the consideration pile. And the Earth Sign Champion. Ooh. You know, I was mega impressed by the Thorn Lieutenants. This is just a weaker Thorn Lieutenant, so I don't know. These are definitely going into the cube though. And I don't know if I want to play with a singleton cube. I don't mind if I play with multiple copies. I really got to see how to do that. So Vivien's Jaguar. We are playing with Vivien Reed, so man, that was a poor filter if we only have bristling boards that we took out. You know what? We're gonna put these to the side. Let's check out our black cards first. Alright, so take out all the lands. By the way, I really like the art on these lands. I just think some of these are really, really cool. Just, yeah, never mind. Get that out of the way. The lands right there. Admirable Endurance. We're gonna play any kind of combat tricks because I really enjoyed that experience playing with all those blossoming defenses, even though these aren't probably on that, you know, power level of a blossoming defense. I still think, because, you know, it's 2 mana versus the 1 mana, which does matter, I still think that these are, you know, definitely viable in the kitchen table meta. Oh, and the Blood Divinations, of course. As a matter of fact, if you do purchase the Liliana deck, you should definitely consider getting some Active Treasons. I think they're commons or, you know, uncommons, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're commons, but essentially that's a red spell, so you do have to go into black or red, but you steal their creature, and you can attack with it because it gets haste, it's untapped and it gets haste, and then on your main phase 2, you can Blood Divination, sack it, and it's their creature. So it's like the ultimate wombo combo. It is a 7 mana play, so... but, you know, if you do play with the cards, it's always there for the later game. Maybe take out a big, chunky, I guess, god, maybe? Oh, well, sacrifice? How does Indestructible work with sacrifice? I don't know. Gotta look that up. But this is a very solid card because, yes, it is sorcery speed. Yes, you do have to sacrifice a creature. But the payoff, 3 cards, and if you could somehow wombo combo it off, I think it's really high upside. So, in the kitchen table meta, we're definitely consider it. Gravedigger, of course. Lich's Caresses. Again, we opened that Contract Killing from the Ixalan booster, which is another 5 mana destroy creature, a sorcery speed. That one gave us 2 tokens. But, with that being said, since we are running low on removal and we took out all the murders from the Planeswalker deck as well as the Deck Builder's Toolkit to put into our Challenger deck, we're going to put these into the consideration pile because we don't have those murders. So, yeah, we do need the removal though, even though it is really slow, but in the kitchen table casual meta, I think it's playable. We're kind of thinking of draft in a sense. Reassembling Skeleton. I like this card, but I'm going to put him aside over here. Special pile because I have other casual decks I'm trying to build. I'm trying to build a mill deck, and I think that has good potential to really kind of stall the board state, just be kind of a chump blocking a wall if I can get like 2 or 3 of them out. This one isn't very playable, so we're gonna put that over here. I actually really like the Ursine Champions the more I look at it for an early game play. So yeah, but we're just gonna put that in there. I don't know. We'll go back and forth. It's okay. We don't gotta just kind of limit ourselves right now. This right here is another good removal, but oh, instant speed. Yeah, we'll put it into consideration. I love removal, so just again, see, this is why I really like the Ursine Champions in the Vivien deck. It's scalable in the late game versus this. It's just a chill, you know, 2/2 vanilla creature. I mean, it's boring, but it does get the job done, right? This has upside. This has upside. This is a worse version of Thorn Lieutenant, but for a Planeswalker deck to get 4 copies of this is awesome because it's applicable in the early game. It's a 2/2, you know, bear at the worst, and then it has that insane ability. I mean, look at that, +3/+3. And you can catch your opponent off guard if they're a noob, just like yourself. Yeah, because you can use it on their turn. As long as you have the mana up, they attack into you. Boom, you hit them with the 5/5 blocker. Yeah, it becomes, yeah, it's not only on your turn. It's each turn, yeah. Cool. So, man, alright, so I just sold myself, dang, on Ursine Champion. We're going to put those back in because we aren't playing with the Llanowar Elves, so we do need some early game plays. Now the Vivien's Jaguar. Okay, so we're going to put that in the not so good pile because the other one, the Risen Gorgons, are just they're solid creatures for 3 mana, but they're dependent on having a Planeswalker out. So since we're only playing with one copy of a Planeswalker, how often are you going to be able to trigger that simultaneously? It's not very often. Because first of all, you have to cast the Planeswalker, which is a lot of mana, and then you have to have this already on the battlefield. Again, it will happen, but as far as a consistent strategy, if you were trying to aim for this, you'd want to have 4 copies of this and then 4 copies of the Planeswalker, right? Because then you maximize that synergy, or the chances of drawing it. Again, this is the kitchen table meta, so it's totally viable. At its worst, it's a 3 mana 3/3, which is a solid creature. There are a lot of 2 mana 3/3s that you see popping up nowadays, I think, from what I've seen. From the booster pack, we opened up that red-white dinosaur 2/3/3, and we also opened up that vampire 2 mana 3/3. Now these 3/3s for 2 mana do have downsides, but I think the life gain one, the vampire, I think he's actually playable in a life gain style deck, but I don't know about the dinosaur. But you do see the 2 mana 3/3s is what I'm trying to get at. So this right here is just a solid average creature at its worst. At its best, it becomes a death touch blocker, which is really relevant. I mean, you clock up the board, it has that pseudo evasion, so if you do attack, they're not going to block into a 3/3 with death touch. Typically not, so it kind of has a pseudo evasion. But if they do block and they use a bigger creature, if they only have a bigger creature, I mean, it's kind of foolish. I'd rather just let the 3/3 get in for 3 as opposed to trading my bigger creature for this death touch. But if it's vice versa, if they have a big creature and they're attacking into you, then you have the Liliana, and then you have the Arisen Gorgon. You can really trade into stuff. It's kind of like the underrated 3 mana 2/2 death touch, that Basilisk. I think he's a solid blocker. So, but that's conditional. This is conditional. So at its worst, it's a 3 mana 3/3. I'm just gonna put them into the side, to the left side, which is my, they're playable, but there's better stuff that was given to us in the Planeswalker decks. Same thing with Vivien's Jaguar. I like this more though, because if it does die, we do get that value, and I'm a big sucker for value. But it's still going to be in the left side of the consideration of the choice piles, which is my kind of the not playable stuff. I mean, it is playable, but it's just there's better stuff. So this is definitely playable in the kitchen table meta, but again, it has that synergy where we need to rely on that Vivien. So what if you don't draw a Vivien? Hold on. So yeah, what if you don't draw a Vivien? But still, with that being said, I think it's still a definitely good playable card. But we are only running 1 copy of Vivien, so at its best, it's a 3/2 for 3 mana with reach. Yeah, why not? Maybe a sideboard, if there is a kitchen table sideboard. These Tattered Mummies, nah, we can't really play with these. I think this would be awesome in a deck that somehow could like duplicate these or create tokens of these, or destroy it and then respawn it and then destroy it again. But otherwise, just for 2 mana 1/2, it doesn't seem like it's gonna do much. Even in a strategy, if you're in red where you had a bunch of burn, maybe that's kind of where you could put this along with the Vioshinos. Maybe, I don't know. It just goes straight burn. That actually sounds pretty interesting. Huh, okay, but as far as what we're trying to do, I don't think it's playable at all. But wow, that red. I wonder if that makes this card good. I don't know. I don't think so. Because I'm thinking like you run 4 copies of this, 4 copies of the Vioshinos, and then you get the 4 copies of Shock, 4 copies of Lightning Strike, 4 copies of Wizard's Lightning. What else can he burn with? Gutter Snipes? I mean, just anything that can go straight burn damage. Huh. Well, for us, he's going to be in the junk pile. And the Meteor Golem? Yeah, why not? Let's run 3 Meteor Golems, because who cares about curve, right? Okay, so those right there are from booster packs. This all right here. So I'm going to separate my Deck Builder's Toolkit. So this is everything that I opened from the Deck Builder's Toolkit. and I'm going to organize them by black and green, so I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, these are some of the cards. This is from the Challenger deck, so you aren't going to have that from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, so I'll just put that aside. But, you know, Reassembling Skeleton, I'm putting this one aside as well. That one's for another deck, where I'm going to try and make a kind of a control black deck. I don't know what, but I just think it has potential in that kind of style of a deck. This right here is definitely an early game play that we'll put in the consideration pile. I didn't actually end up putting those into the Challenger deck simply because there's better options. Yeah, these also are, you know, good, solid chump blockers. Yeah, we'll main deck those. Let's see here. Some additional removal. This is kind of good as well. Oh, another abnormal endurance. So we got a lot of good stuff so far. A 3 Skymarch Bloodletters. You can tell they're different print runs. Yeah, just checking out the tone of the color. But yeah, we're definitely going to play with 3 of those, just because even though we aren't a life gain deck necessarily, a 3 mana 2/2 is definitely a decent play, as far as kitchen table kind of, you know, what we're going to go against. It's going to be totally viable. This right here, I don't know. You get the life link. We did throw in that 3 mana Oaken form, so if we are going to play enchantments, maybe? I don't know. Liliana Spoils, I really like this card. Now, since we are playing black-green, there is a chance that we're not going to hit on this. And if you don't know already, lands are colorless, I think. Or they don't have a color, I think. It has to be a black card, it has to be like something like this, where it has the mana symbol. Or even a multicolored because it has the black mana symbol, it's still considered a black card. So yeah, but still, I really like the upside of that, and it is a slower kitchen table meta, so again, solid removal. That was from a booster pack, Eviscerate. Gravedigger is definitely playable. Contract Killing, like I said, that 5 mana sorcery speed destroy creatures, really slow, but still having the mana. And if we're going to be playing with all these 5 mana spells, 7 mana spells, we got to go 25, maybe 26 lands. Vampire Sovereigns are definitely playable. Getting that life swing, and combined with the Pelakka Wurm, if we are going against the red Planeswalker deck or any kind of red aggressive deck, we can restore some of that life. Or say we lost the early game and they have board control, they're hitting us for, you know, 4 or 5 or whatever. This can mitigate some of that damage. You know, maybe you play this and then you play Pelakka Wurm, that's, you know, what, 10 life? So, and of course the other Gravewaker. Now, I eventually, you know, I kind of have like a sideboard, if that makes sense. And I have 1 copy of that in there, and then this one's from the Deck Builder's Toolkit. You get 1 from the Planeswalker deck, the Liliana Planeswalker deck as well. And the reason being is because this is actually probably better than the Liliana Planeswalker herself, because it's an actual creature. And it comes, when you use the ability, it comes into the battlefield tapped. Now, chances are you're not going to have another creature that's worth 7 mana for it to be, you know, even worth the mana cost, because it would kind of suck to do this only for like a 2 mana 2/2 or something like that. But if you do have other big creatures, then of course you get insane value because they come onto the battlefield tapped. And it is a 5/5 flyer, so against the control matchup, maybe you can pull this off. I don't think so though, so that's why it's on the sideboard for now. I just think it's really, really slow, but I still think it's super cool. It's my second favorite of the rares. The first being the Aggressive Mammoth, because I just think that's kind of a ridiculous card. And we're going to be playing with both of those. Because we got 1 in the Vivien and 1 in the Deck Builder's Toolkit. Now here's the green cards. So we got 2 Naturalizes, 2 Rabid Bites. Ooh, what the heck? Where did this show up? you're not going to have that because that's in the challenge deck. Again, I'm trying to focus this on like the deck builders toolkits along with the Planeswalker decks. Rapid Bite's decent removal. This is not really playable. It's just a 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance. Not going to be doing so much. Plummets are alright if you're going against the red deck because there's a lot of dragons, a lot of flyers as a matter of fact, in pretty much all of the Planeswalker decks, I think. Some, you know, flying vampires, dragons, sphinxes, stuff like that. These are definitely playable because we get that graveyard recursion, so even though in standard I don't think it does much, being just a 1/1 for 2 mana, and it's really slow to kind of get back into your hand, you know, it's still definitely playable in the kitchen meta. And the reason why I say this is because you'd rather be playing something else with 2 mana, I think, right? Like some kind of removal, or you know, another creature or something, at least as far as the challenger deck. So, you know, we'll put that in the consideration pile, and we have a lot of cards in there. This right here is along with the Artifact Hate. If you're going against the blue Planeswalker deck, definitely viable because it turns their artifacts into 5/5 creatures, artifact creatures. Rapid Bite's really nice. If it does require you to have a good board presence, at least one creature with, you know, at least 2 power. You don't want to be using this with 1 power. I mean, sometimes you might have to, but you know, you really want to use this on something like with a 3 power or 4 power, because then you can just wipe out one of their creatures. Plummet again, good. Again, nice. We got those Elvish Rejuvenators, so we're going to put those in the consideration pile. Ensure we get our manas, so we can play our big chunky stuff. Another Colossal Majesty. Again, this is a slower meta as far as the kitchen table. Another Artifact Hate card. We've got a lot of Artifact Hate. It turns out that for my sideboards in the Challenger deck, I have the Thrashing Bronodon in the main board, and then I have the Elvish Rejuvenator in the sideboard, and I also have Dispossess in the sideboard too. So just in case you come across some artifact shenanigans, I think Slice and Twain's the best one here because it has the upside of drawing a card, but you know, the basic 2 mana instant speed naturalize is decent. Just having that flexibility, of course all of these have that. I think this is the weakest of them, so the Slice and Twain, you get this, in the sideboard for the Challenger deck, unfortunately, same with this, so that's a bummer. Well, it looks like you're going to be limited to naturalize in the Vivien deck, or the Planeswalker deck. I think you get a naturalize? I don't know. Rapid Bites, Plummets. This is from the Deck Builders Toolkit. Yeah, we'll throw it in the consideration pile. Okay. This is the Deck Builders Toolkit, but I don't know if we're going to have a lot of auras. We did throw in the Oaken Forms and stuff in there, so maybe. It is a 4 mana 2/3. That dependency on the aura, I don't know. Another Declare Dominance. Solid card. I think that can actually change board states, and we might play with 2 of them, I don't know. Because it's even kind of decent on a, you know, maybe a 3 mana 3/3 or something. An Aggressive Mammoth, of course. And this could make the cut. 5 mana, just solid all around body. Okay, so those I'm gonna put into there. Okay, so going through our consideration pile, the one that we decided were the better cards that we at least think of are better cards. Here's our first filter. Okay, so this is going to be our kind of the core identity, and it's 21 cards. And I'll go through kind of the reason why I went with these 21 as the core, you know, base, what we build upon, and we choose cards. These first, and then we choose other cards to supplement this strategy. So what exactly are we going for this strategy? Well, we're going to go with, so we're in black, and we're in green. So with green, the green color identity is, you know, strength through chunky, ginormous creatures, and they use a lot of early game plays in Magic the Gathering to ramp out or ensure that they can get their lands, or to ensure that they have their mana base kind of established so they can play those big chunky creatures, because you don't want to be holding like 6 mana, 7 mana creatures in your hand and not have all of the mana that you need in order to get to that point in the game where you can actually play them. Now of course you do have to combat opposing strategies that are coming after you much quicker than the way you can unleash and ramp into those bigger creatures, but if you can get those assistant cards like Llanowar Elves, turn 1, turn 2, Druid of the Cowl, and then you have 2 creatures that can establish mana for you, as well as having your mana base, you can tap all those and then drop a turn 5, Scholar Wolf isn't that good of a body, but if you can potentially get a 6/6 on the board on turn 4 or turn 3 or whatever, it's very troublesome, and it really kind of bullies your opponent right away. So with that being in mind, that's our core fundamental identity. But we only have 2 Druid of the Cowls, so what we got to do is we got to find other ways using the cards that we have, because remember I took those 2 Llanowar Elves and put them in my my Challenger deck. So we're going to utilize those 3 Elfish Rejuvenators. Now this one is awesome because you're most likely going to hit on your top 5, but it comes into play tapped, which is nice. You play this and you actually get a land on the battlefield tapped. That's kind of another way to ensure that you get the mana. It also gives you the information of all the cards that you drew, the ones that aren't a land, and you can put them on the bottom of your deck, and then you realize, oh, well, now I know that I have, for example, maybe you have like a grave or an aggressive mammoth, in that top 5, you can realize, oh, well, I only have 1 copy left because I put the other one on the bottom of my deck. So this is just a really good card, ensures our lands. In the same kind of sense of the Elvish Rejuvenator, we're going to be playing with the Skittering Surveyor. You get 2 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit. It's a 1/2 for 3 mana, which is really bad, but it is, it doesn't matter what kind of mana you pay with it, but the main thing is you get to search through your whole library. Now it is only a basic land, so and it's a common, so it's not a very high-powered card, I don't think, but in our kitchen table deck, it's totally viable. We have 2 Druid of the Cowls, and then we have 3 Elvish Rejuvenators, and then we have 2 Skittering Surveyors. So we're kind of ensuring that we're getting our mana for our big creatures. You kind of see what the strategy is going for, right? Because towards the later end of this portion, you're going to see these big chunky creatures. And then I threw in the Manalith. This is very, very slow because it's a turn 3, doesn't do anything, and it is another source of mana. That's the reason why I'm playing with it, and it is any color, but at the same time, it's very, very slow. 3 mana and do nothing, and then you can only, you can use it immediately because it's an artifact, but and it's also nice to have that mana fixing, but at the same time, it is very slow. But as far as our strategy goes, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 cards that can help us get land / generate mana. And obviously, if you can get Llanowar Elves, get a full play set. Again, you get the 2 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit and then 2 from the Welcome deck. But in my case, I already put those 2 from the deck. Alright, sorry about that. So yeah, the Poison Tip Archer. I know you're probably thinking like, oh, why do we have the Duresses? Why do we have Poison Tip Archer? Because everything else is kind of like focused on kind of that strategy of ensuring we get the mana and the necessary ramp into the big creatures. And this right here, I forgot about the Colossal Majesties, but if we're going to be playing big chunky creatures, again, you only need to control one of them. Control a creature with power 4 greater, draw a card. Again, the kitchen table meta is going to be slower, so we can play this on 3. Probably not get as punished if we were in a more competitive, quicker, faster paced format. But in casual kitchen table, this is a very powerful, potentially powerful card, because we are going to be playing creatures like Colossal Dreadmaw and Aggressive Mammoths, Pelakka Wurms. As a matter of fact, Poison Tip Archer is probably he's probably not part of the core identity. I probably should have put him over there. The reason why I have the Duresses in here is because I think you're typically gonna hit usually with this spell. Uh, most Planeswalker decks are gonna have spells. Um, it's not like I don't think there's any Planeswalker deck that has only creatures and no other spells. So against my friends, this is gonna be a good card. And I think if you're gonna be in black, casually, you should be aiming for cards that destroys your opponent's strategy. So anything like a duress, we can pick off a spell or an artifact. It just has to be a non-creature, non-land card. Or things like kill a target creature. Anything that disrupts the opposing strategy. It's not really blue control where you like counter spells and stuff. It's more like discard their cards or destroy one of their creatures, stuff like that. That's the perks of being in black. So yeah, I did take out this Poison Tip Archer because I was thinking, I just really like this card because I think, first of all, he's cool looking. Another thing is he's just a good blocker, but also on that last section, whenever another creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. That's any creature. And it just seems like a pretty good perk. But then again, it doesn't really have synergy with our Colossal Majesty, and we are playing with a lot of creatures that don't have that synergy. These Druid the Cowls, these Elvish Rejuvenators. So maybe on turn 4, maybe the Bristling Boar is a good choice in this deck if we're going to be playing 2 Colossal Majesties, because that's the turn 4, 4 mana, 4/3. So maybe, yeah. So we're going to take the Poison Tip Archer out. He might be a good tech card against some flyers or something. Even though against the other Planeswalker decks, at least in the Core Set 2019, from what I've seen, there's a lot of good flyers. There's like vampire flyers. There's dragons. So yeah, so we're just down to 20, but that's okay. We're gonna keep the Scala Wolves though, even though it doesn't have the synergy with the Colossal Majesty, just because it's a very, very strong effect. Even though it might be a little bit overcosted, still for 5 mana, you get a 3/3 body, so you get a creature on the board. Okay, so for that 2 extra mana, because for a 3/3 body is typically around 3 mana, for the extra 2 mana, you get to pick out a card that's a green card from the top 5. That seems pretty decent. So we're gonna keep those in there. 2 Colossal Dreadmaws and 2 Aggressive Mammoths. Obviously, the Aggressive Mammoths are stronger. It's an 8/8. These are 6/6s, but this is still going to do work for you in the casual kitchen table setting. So, Pelakka Wurm. Obviously, I've already spouted enough on this card. Just really, really great card because it stabilizes you and also has that value if it does die or it eats up a removal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So we're down to 20. Oh, and obviously, we're actually to 22 because we're going to be playing with both of our Planeswalkers. Again, I need to get more sleeves for the casual deck, but these I'm going to throw in because I guess that's kind of the challenge or the fun that I'm trying to make, is kind of merging 2 Planeswalker decks together to see what kind of hybrid dual colored deck I can make, because obviously the Core Set 2019 Planeswalker decks are monocolored, so kind of merging them just to see what kind of mash we can make. And if you don't know what these cards do, well, there you go. They're both kind of slow, but this one has a lot of recursion value in it, so for 5 mana you can do -1, you can do it over 4 turns, or if you do have board advantage, you can start pecking in for -2 damage against the opponent. And if you can, it takes 3 turns, well, technically 4 turns, to activate her ultimate, because you get to pop the +1 3 times, and then you got to wait another turn in order to use that -7. But if you do get to that point, it's pretty much game winning, because you get to destroy 2 of their creatures, and then you can bring back 2 creatures from a graveyard, I believe. I think it's any graveyard. From graveyards, yeah. So that's really, really cool. Vivien is just a very all-around, well-built Planeswalker, at least as far as Planeswalker deck power levels are concerned, simply because she does a lot. She buffs up a creature for a +2. She has a built-in creature removal, which is a Rabid Bite, literally the same text as Rabid Bite. So, target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. So having that built in and being able to reuse this over and over, you can just +2 at once, and then you have the potential to use this -3 twice. That's 2 built-in Rabid Bites into one spell. It's very, very nice. Just having that, potential of, having this constantly, bringing up your loyalty counters and having the flexibility in these cards. Also, they're just cool. They're Planeswalkers. I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, let's just put them in there. But, I think this one has a better ultimate than Vivien, Liliana's, but Vivien requires only 3 turns to use. You need to pop her +2 twice to get to 9, and then on the next turn, on the 3rd turn, you can use her ultimate, whereas Vivien needs those 4 turns, the 3 +1s, then she's at the 7 loyalty, and then she needs the extra turn, which is the 4th turn, to use her ultimate. So, very, very cool cards. So we're at 22 as far as our core identity. So as we're looking for more and more cards, I decided to include these as supplemental. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we're at 29 with the 22. I'm throwing in the Towns of Wildwood because it does have that recursion. Okay, so it's just, pop this onto something, and if it does die, the creature dies, but then this goes in our graveyard, sits in our graveyard, later in the game we can bring back into our hand. Again, this is a soft spot, so, when you're deck building, you should always have those cards that are maybe experimental. You just gotta see how they play out, and then if they work, you keep them in, and if they don't, you swap them out. So that's kind of what this one is. Oakenform is just a very solid card. It seems pretty decent in draft videos from what I've seen, but in regular play, when you're doing constructed decks, there's a lot of removal, so you can easily get 2 for 1, which means you have this. That means you're putting an aura onto another card. So you have 2 cards in play. You have the aura onto a creature, and then that creature gets removed with a spell. You just got 2 for 1. 2 of your cards got taken out for 1 of their cards. So that's the downsides of auras. That's why this one, even though it's not as strong of an effect, it's only +1/+1. Just having that ability to recur it is really, really nice. So, but still, having the Oakenform is, it's decent. But I'm just gonna play around with these auras, see if they work. Chances are, I think they're gonna do pretty good. Because even putting this on something like Druid of the Cowl, that would make it into a 4/6, which is turn 3. That's pretty good, 4/6. So it's something that you immediately got to deal with. Eviscerate, again, remember we don't have any murders, so I got this from a booster pack, so you might not have this, but anytime you can open up removal, just pop it in here. Yeah, anytime you have removal, just pop it in here. Obviously, you're going to have the 1 murder from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, so make sure you have that. But I put those in my Challenger decks. Same with the Liliana's murders. So you should, if you have the Planeswalker deck from Liliana and the Deck Builder's Toolkit, you should have 3 murders, which is solid all-around removal. 2 Liliana spoils because, we're playing with the 2 Duresses, and if we can play, with the black strategy of disrupting their strategy doing discards or removal, it's just a good all-around balance to our supplemental strategy to our end game, which is bringing out chunky creatures. We can delay the game by taking out their biggest creature. We can ensure that we're going to get our biggest creatures eventually by disrupting all of their strategies. So, and then the Gravewaker is again another thing we can ramp into, or if we have a big chunky creature that died, it ate up removal, and then we pulled this later in the game, and then it just becomes a regurgitating machine. I mean, it's just bringing back dead creatures, and then of course there's a lot of mana, but in the casual meta it should be able to pull through for us, because it's going to be a lot slower. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're at 20 plus 2 with the Planeswalkers, 22, 7, we're at 29. We're not going to drop below 24 lands, we're going to have at least 24 lands, so we're going to aim for 36 non-lands. So we need 7 more cards. Okay, so we're searching for those last 7 cards. I want to show you... Alright, so we are going to play with those Bristling Boars simply because we don't have access to high quality 4 mana plays, and that's kind of a missing gap that I noticed in our mana curve. It also has synergy with that enchantment from 3 mana, the Colossal Majesty, and that's kind of another reason why I wanted to play with it, is because we need more creatures with 4 power just to ensure that this is useful. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and then the 2 Planeswalkers makes it 29. So, yeah, so as you can see, we have this gap right here, no creatures at 4 mana. So maybe we do stick in the Bristling Boars. Again, it's not a bad card, it's just it's susceptible to lightning bolts, and you know what, we're going to take our chances, but even if it doesn't get lightning bolted, it's going to be a decent card for us because it's kind of an aggressive attacking card. Can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, so it's at least going to get blocked by 1 individual creature if it does get blocked, and you know, it's probably going to take it out with the 4 power that it has, and if it doesn't get blocked, well, it just went through for 4 damage, so it's kind of like a pseudo evasion. So we're going to slap that in the 4 mana slot, just have another creature, so now we're at 31, and then next up we're just going to round out with some Ursine Champion. It's a great solid early game play, 2 mana, but the main reason why we're going to play with this card, and the reason why the Vivien deck has a really good kind of early game presence, is because it's scalable towards the late game. So it's not a useless draw if you draw in the late game. You plop this down, and then all of a sudden you can crank it up, and it becomes a 3/3. Again, you can only use it once each turn, but the fact that you can use it on your opponent's turn, it doesn't say that you can only use it on your turn. It's just, you can pump it up as long as you have the mana. You can pump it up on your opponent's turn, so they attack into you. You surprise them if they forget about this guy. For 6 mana, pump it up to a +3/+3. This becomes a 5/5 blocker for you, and you can trade into their creatures after they declare their attackers. So very, very solid early game. Also, it's just, I really love kind of the art, so, and it's a Berserker, and it becomes a Bear Berserker. So we're going to throw that in there. We're at 31. Let's see, that means we're at 35, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 with the Planeswalkers. So our last card is going to be a combat trick, so we'll just do a Titanic Growth. Okay, so for our last card, I was thinking of doing the combat tricks, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think, well, these are sorcery speed, but these instant spells, I don't know if I'm going to do the combat tricks. I think I'm going to get, again, we're playing with those Ursine Champions, even though this is a really good card. This I got from a booster, so you're not going to get that. But you will get a Dusk Legion Zealot from the Deck Builder's Toolkit. It's a decent card, but I don't know. I just think we're going to play with the Ursine Champions. We have a bunch of 3 drops, and then we have a bunch of late game creatures. Put abnormal turns. Macabre Waltz. We're going to let Gravewaker and Liliana the Necromancer do their thing, trying to get our Graveyard Recursion. So that means we're not playing with Gravediggers, unfortunately. It's just ran out a lot of room. Obviously, I can take out that 2 mana aura, and maybe replace it with some of these other better spells. Just gotta playtest a little bit, see how much I like the auras. Vigilant Baloth is, you get this in the Vivien deck, which is a 4/5, not bad, but obviously a 5/5 is better, and this one also has Vigilance, so I think I'm going to play with this as an additional kind of card. Now, I wish I have room for all these, but I just simply don't. This is a really good card, actually. Meteor Golem for the kitchen table meta because it has built-in removal, and you can use it for enchantments, creatures. I mean, it's very, very flexible, especially with mana cost. You can just use any mana, so you can throw that in pretty much any deck. That's why I think all the Planeswalker decks do have it. I really like Poison Tip Archer just because, I don't know, I just think he's really cool. Just has a lot going on. Anti-air defense, he can clog up the board with his Death Touch, and also that additional effect, whenever the creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life. But we are strapped for that last spot, because remember, we're only going to play with 36 non-lands. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and then 35, 36. As far as lands go, let's see. So as far as our land base, we do not need to hit double blacks as much as our challenger deck because we aren't running the murders. Our only double black spells are Gravewaker and Liliana. So what that means is that we can be a little bit more lenient on the black swamps and just really focus on the forests. So we're going to play with the 2 Foul Orchards that we got from our Deck Builder's Toolkit. We don't have any more, so we'll have that as our base. First 2 lands. We're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, let's do 10. So what is this so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to take out 1 swamp, put in 1 more forest. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 9 swamps. Okay, so let's see what our final product is. Okay. Alright, so let's see here. This is what our final product is. We got our 2 Planeswalkers, because if you're going to buy the Planeswalker decks, you definitely want to play with these. They're just cool, even though they're not the best Planeswalkers. So yeah, that's our first 2 cards. Okay, we're going to have 2 Duresses because you're going to get 2 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, and also it's just, we're only going to rock with 2. We're not going to rock with 4, but 2 is, decent. I think you can pick off something from their hand. We're also using the Liliana's Spoils, I think, yeah, which is another more expensive, way more expensive, 1 for 1. But this one lets us pick out a card of our choice, so we're able to choose the next line of our play. Now obviously there's going to be times where you're going to pop that open and you're going to miss. So, actually, yeah, that's actually not a good card. 1, 2, because we're mainly rocking green. Yeah, we need to take these out. That is a big bummer. That is a big bummer. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because we don't have any other, really good black creatures. Gravedigger, yeah. Vampire Sovereigns, but see, we want to get that Colossal Majesty synergy. So none of these have 4 power. Dang, that's kind of unfortunate. Oh well. So we're going to take out, that's kind of a bummer. We're going to take out those two, and instead, we are going to incorporate, let's see, we are going to incorporate another creature or a combat trick. We're gonna go another removal. Yeah, why not? And we'll go with, actually, this is kind of removal, right? Yeah, we'll go 2 abnormal endurances. And the reason being that I went with abnormal endurance versus Titanic Growth is because, you know, once we do get our big creatures on the board, you know, the 6/6s, the 8/8s, those chunky creatures, this is much better on a 1/1 or a 2/2 to trade up, whereas this is much more beneficial for a bigger creature, because if the bigger creature, for example, eats up a removal spell like a murder, you can slap this on top of the stack, and then your creature will get this. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. Obviously, you only get it for that until the end of the turn, but it eats up that removal after this is on top of the stack. So it goes, they play murder, you pop this on your big creature, it has that recursion, this resolves, and then the murder hits your creature, and it has this effect still, and it goes to the graveyard, comes back. So your big creature is safe. This is kind of like a little bit of a hexproof, but it's more like it still dies, it still eats it, and then it comes back to the battlefield. So it also, if you have more enter the battlefield effects, it's going to be really, really good, because you know, you're going to have the battlefield effect a trigger again. So we don't have too many battlefield effects, but now the duresses aren't, man, because I was thinking, you know, we could have a little bit of some discard. We'll put those duresses out, and we'll just focus on kind of, I guess, more combat tricks. Let's see here. In this case, I'm going to pull out 1 contract killing, just to have some additional ramp, even though it's a sorcery speed destroy creature. Very, very slow, but at the same time, it's kind of like a murder if we treat those 2 additional treasure tokens as kind of a refund. But its big upfront cost is 5 mana, so it is really slow, but you know, it is additional removal. And I think I'm going to do 1 more removal spell. We're going to do 1 more removal spell. Lich's Crest, I don't know. Maybe we do another early game creature. Yeah, tough choice. Or Macabre Waltz. Or Gravedigger. Yeah, either or. I'm going to do Macabre Waltz, just for that graveyard recursion, because we get 2 2 creatures. So the way this card works best is if you take a land. Well, actually, we do need a lot of lands. Yeah, I was thinking, because this card, you can discard a land that you don't need, and then get 2 creatures from your graveyard. Obviously, it requires you to have creatures that have died. So obviously, this is a better card as you play the game, and then you draw it, you know, turn 7, turn 8. But yeah, we need our lands. So yeah, lands are pretty important in our deck. So I'm actually going to do a Rapid Bite. Yeah, why not? We'll do another Rapid. We'll do 1 Rapid Bite. Oh, Gravedigger. Yeah. Well, you kind of see what. Ooh, I'm gonna go with Declare Dominance, even though it's really, really slow. really slow, but let's check it out. So we took out the dresses, took out the 2 Liliana spoils. Let's see here. Ooh, yeah, it is really slow, but whatever. Okay, so let's check out what we got. Alright, so I know we're bouncing back and forth, but again, those 2 Planeswalkers, so that's 2. 2 abnormal endurances, combat trick. But like I said when I was explaining, this is better for a bigger creature if it does eat up removal. It can, die, come back to the battlefield. For Ursine Champions, just a good early game play, establishes some board control against aggro, and later on it becomes a pump up ability for 6 mana to become a 5/5. You can use it on your opponent's turn as well. Talons of Wildwood, recursion through the graveyard, which is nice, has the extra value, so if it does get destroyed, you don't get 2 for 1 as bad, because it's in the graveyard, you can recur it back into your hand. Oaken Form, again, doesn't have that strong recursion, but still a 3 for 3/3. It's kind of problematic and also has synergy with Colossal Majesty. 2 Druid of the Cows because we don't have the playset. We got 2 of them from the Deck Builder's Toolkit. Give us additional ramp. 2 Colossal Majesties, 1 from the Vivien and 1 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit. So that means we're going to try to build around that 4 power, just so we can get that draw card. Elfish Rejuvenators, 2 from Vivien and 1 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, establishes our lands. 2 Skittering Surveyors, 2 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, again, establishes lands. Manaliths establishes our mana pool, or to ensure that we can ramp into stuff, as an extra thing that pumps us another mana on top of our lands. 4 Bristling Boars, oh no, 2 Bristling Boars, sorry, because it has the 4 power. And then the Eviscerate, obviously you want to play with the Murders, but I took mine into the Challenger decks. Vigilant Baloth, I opened it in a booster pack, so use whatever other creature that you want, or maybe another combat trick, a Titanic Growth, whatever you want, but for me it has another 4 power, it's a 5/5 decent creature. Declare Dominance, another spell that really benefits potentially maybe an Ursine Champion early in the game, or if you have a bigger creature like a Vigilant Baloth, it becomes an 8/8, and then they have to block into it so you can clear out a board potentially, or at least get some good favorable trades. Contract Killing, again, very slow, but again, additional removal, so on top of Eviscerate. And then it gives us that 2 artifact tokens that we can potentially ramp up into it. Maybe we missed our land, so we're stuck at 5 lands, and then we have the potential to play our Pelakka Wurm, because we got that 2 additional tokens, because it's any color. So 2 Scala Wolves, we're playing with majority green cards, so we should be able to hit on that. Remember, lands are not colored. Lands are colorless, so you cannot pull a forest land. You have to pull a creature card or anything that has that symbol, that color. So if it's multicolored, yeah, you can pull it out as long as it has that forest. Gravewaker, again, for the long game, give us additional graveyard recursion. It's a flyer. The Dreadmaws, decent body, 6/6. Aggressive Mammoths, very strong card, 6 mana, 8/8, 1 in the booster, and then 1 in the Vivien. Very strong card. And then, of course, the Pelakka Wurm, which we get in the Vivien. Game-changing card. It can, essentially negate all of that burn that we've taken through the early game if we're eating face damage. So, yeah. And also, you get that value if it does die. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 34, 35, 36, including the Planeswalkers. So that means we have 24 lands, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 forest, 15, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 plus 15 is 24. So there you go. 9 swamps, 13 forests, 2 foul orchards because we don't have the playset, because they cheaped out on giving us a full playset of dual lands in the Deck Builder's Toolkit. But as far as kitchen table, this is definitely a strong brew for the kitchen table meta. we got some combat tricks, some early game plays, some buffs, some ramp. Obviously, we wish we had the Llanowar Elves, but I took all my Llanowar Elves. I only got 2 from the Deck Builder's Toolkit, and I put them into my Challenger deck. So we're not playing with those, but obviously, if you have them, play with them. Elvish Rejuvenators. So we're ensuring our lands and our mana so we can play our bigger, chunkier creatures and turn the tide of the battle through all of these guys. And if these guys soak up removal, it's okay. We got the Grave Wakers, we got Liliana, or we have the normal endurances that we can combat trick our bigger creatures and ensure they stick on the board. We have a little bit of removal, but again, we're mainly a dominant position where we try and establish our ramp and ensure our lands so we can get our bigger creatures. So that's how we're going to win the game. The removal is just like, we save it for their big creature and then really just punch their face with our big creatures. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. A very, very simple, casual jank brew. But yeah, I hope it inspired you guys that, you can combine the Deck Builder's Toolkit with a Planeswalker deck and have, a flavorful, simple, but playable, maybe, I don't know if you will dominate, but at least you can, have a good chance against beating your friends, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat my friends and, have some bragging rights. They have the Dominaria Planeswalker decks, and I have a feeling that I'm going to whoop them so bad that they're going to want to buy their own